Hi guys, it's Crystal. I hope you guys are all having a good week and that you guys are all excited. Halloween is on Sunday. Hopefully this video will be up by then so we can finish out Shocktober month with a bang. Who knows for certain. But if you guys are going to go trick-or-treating, just remember to be safe and stay safe. If you guys are new to this channel, like I said, my name is Crystal and I deal with mostly Canadian true crime or true crime with a Canadian twist. From time to time, I also do international crimes. For the majority of this month, we've been in England and in Japan. So I also do international crimes, ones that have been recommended to me, ones that are interesting to me, and ones that show the differences in the criminal system. You probably saw that last week with Junko Furuta. I'm sorry, I've been mispronouncing her name. It's actually Junko, so I really do apologize for that, guys. I'm sorry. We highlighted some of the differences in the criminal systems then. If that sounds like something that you guys want to get behind, hopefully you'll hit that old like button. Subscribe if you want to. Leave me some comments. You know, I'm going to say it particularly about this case, and hit that old notification bell. It might work, it might not, just so that you can know. And if you guys are returning subscribers, you guys already know how much I love you and how thankful I am that you guys join me when these videos come out. It really does make me feel good and like we're actually doing something here. You guys already know I'm going to have to post a trigger warning for this case. So trigger, trigger, trigger. We are going to get into some heavy stuff. Maybe not as heavy as last week. Last week was probably my heaviest video. But definitely some stuff, guys. Torture, possible necrophilic acts, things of that nature. So hopefully you guys will be okay with that. If you guys do choose to leave no comments, please no hate. There's enough hate out there in the world. We're just here to talk about things. And who knows, your theories might be different than mine about this case. Who can say for sure? And these videos, you guys already know, are for entertainment or educational purposes only. That way we're not making YouTube mad. So today we are back in Canada. Actually, I fought against this, guys. I had about 3 cases that I really wanted to talk about. Remember I told you I had a bunch of cases lined up, but time just got away from us. I'm long-winded, what can I say? I did want to talk about the original Candyman, Dean Corll. If you guys haven't looked him up, look him up. He was actually the inspiration for John Wayne Gacy. John Wayne Gacy said it himself. So, and actually, speaking of John Wayne Gacy, one of his victims was just identified this week. So maybe look into that too, guys. And I also wanted to talk about Butch DeFeo, Ronald DeFeo Jr. I don't want to call him the inspiration, but we'll say he's the inspiration for the rumors surrounding the Amityville house. But instead, I decided we'd come back to Canada. It is a Canadian true crime channel after all. And we are going to be talking about Eric Newman. Do you guys know that name? If you don't, maybe you know him by his other name, Luca Magnotta. I figured we'd end it with a bang, guys, so here we go. So Eric Clinton Kirk Newman, sorry guys, was born July 24th of 1982. His parents are Donald Newman and Anna Yorkin. Now, it does appear at some point in time the two of them got married, but when Eric was born, they were still in their teens, and they actually lived in Donald's parents' basement, or like in a section of their home. After Eric was born, he was immediately followed by another boy named Conrad, and then a little bit later on by a girl named Melissa. Now, like I said, Eric's parents were in their teens when Eric was born, and the home was not necessarily stable. From what I know, there was a lot of fighting in it. We have to take everything with a grain of salt, though, because a lot of this comes from Luca himself, Eric himself, and he's known to lie. We know this, guys. He likes to hype up his life, so to speak. So some of these things may have happened, some of these things may not have. Donald does say, though, that Anna was actually very controlling of the kids' behavior, and she did keep them isolated. They didn't really have interaction with other children. They didn't really leave the house much. And Anna actually homeschooled them, guys. even though she herself had dropped out of high school in grade 9, she chose to homeschool her kids. This could be a reason to keep them close and keep control over them, but I can't be too certain on that. Now, Eric did love his grandmother, his maternal grandmother, Phyllis. And from time to time, like I said, the kids' household was really unstable. The family would move around a lot. This would happen whenever they didn't have the mortgage money for their house. They'd lose the house then. So they'd either live with Donald's parents or they'd live with Phyllis, which would be Anna's mother, at various points in time. So sometimes the family lived together just as a unit. Sometimes they lived with Donald's parents. Sometimes they lived with Anna's mother. There was a lot of upheaval in their lives. And like I said, according to Luca, Anna was both physically and emotionally abusive to the kids. And Donald does confirm that she was controlling, like I've said before. So according to Eric, she was. He said that when he was a child, she made him dress up as a girl. Just for whatever reason, she made him do that. But then he goes on to later state that when he was about 10, 11 years old, he started dressing as a girl and putting on makeup because he felt more comfortable in a female identity. I don't know what the truth is. He also says he deeply loves Phyllis and that she was his mother figure. And yet at the same point in time, he also says that when he was putting on the makeup and dressing as a girl, his grandmother would call him derogatory names and shoot him dirty looks. So I don't know what the truth is. It probably lies somewhere in the middle, guys. What is known is that definitely the kids were socially awkward. He said that he was often made fun of in his family for having an effeminate voice, for being small and slender. He really was. And for his hair, I guess. I don't know why. Maybe a receding hairline. I'm not completely sure, guys. He just said he was. So that was Eric's life at that point in time. Now, Luca also said that when he was younger, I'm not sure what age, guys, his grandmother would sleep with him in bed until sometime possibly in his early teens. Most people don't see a lot wrong with that because she was probably comforting him. But yet at the same point in time, he possibly hints at something untoward. I don't fully know about that either, guys. He also said that a close male relative, not his father, but another male relative, sexually abused him when he was younger too. He said that when he did dress up like a girl at the age of 10 and put on makeup, it sexually excited him. So I don't know. So eventually Donald became quite an alcoholic, guys, and he lost his factory job due to drinking on the job. He got caught doing that, bringing booze in and drinking it. The family suffered a lot of turmoil then, and they had to move back in with Anna. This was around the time that Eric was 13. And so, they moved back in with Phyllis, Anna's mother. And this was around the time that Luca was 13. At this point in time, the kids entered public school. They actually entered an actual school. And by this point, Eric and Donald had gotten a divorce. So they were no longer together at this point in time. I'm going to assume that this was a huge shock for the kids. These were isolated kids. It wasn't like they were homeschooled with other kids. They didn't have a lot of contact with other kids. They were very shy. As you can imagine, they'd be very socially awkward, not having any other kids to interact with other than each other. And also, it's formal education. I have no idea what Anna was teaching them. I'm sure that would have been a shock too to them, to have this type of formalized education that they may or may not have gotten before. He said, according to him, that he was very much bullied in school, that he was an outcast because he was shy, and that he really had a bad time in school. And once again, that he was mocked for his clothes because they weren't cool enough. He was mocked for his hair, and people would often touch his hair, which really bothered him, I guess, as a form of making fun of him. That's what he said. One of his classmates, and he was attending school in Lindsay, Ontario at this point in time. One of his classmates actually said that he was such a pathetic creature that people didn't bully him because there was no point in it. She said that he was shy and awkward, but he tended to hang out with other misfits. So according to Eric, he had no friends, but according to this girl, he was acquainted or at least did eat lunch with the other people termed as social misfits in the school system. He also suffered from acne at this point. I don't know if that does anything for you guys, but he did have a lot of acne. That could be another reason why he was so focused on his appearance later on. Luca also claims that he was made fun of for being gay at the school. Nobody backs that up for sure or not for sure. This is all according to Luca. He did say that he actually really did hate public school though. He was eventually, by the time he hit grade 9, evaluated and put into a special needs program, just because he was a couple grades lower in thinking than his cohort. Now, this was probably due to the fact, guys, that he was homeschooled and she wouldn't have taught them everything that they would have needed to know because she didn't have a full education. So it does make some sense that he was held behind. He, at this point in time, had a really negative viewpoint of himself and very low self-esteem. He was very, very sensitive to any type of criticism, too. Like, it didn't matter where it was coming from, if it was constructive or not. He was very, very sensitive to it. He held himself to a different standard and a different viewpoint than many other kids. He thought of himself as very different. So during this time that he was in high school, his early high school years, Donald started hearing voices in his head. He did go to the hospital and he was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic at that point in time. You guys know that there are some genetic links with certain mental health disorders, and schizophrenia is one of them. Schizophrenia is also one of the hardest mental disorders to treat, guys, because a lot of the time a schizophrenic, once they start feeling better, when they don't have auditory or visual hallucinations, and when they start feeling back to their normal selves, a lot of the times they'll stop taking meds because they'll either believe they're cured or that they don't need them. They're also highly suggestible to suggestion itself. A lot of the times when they're artistic, if they're particularly artistic, they'll stop taking the meds because they think it messes with their creativity. And sometimes they just won't believe the diagnosis. Sometimes a paranoid schizophrenic or a schizophrenic will only have a couple breaks throughout their life where they exhibit behaviors. Sometimes they have many. For the most part, paranoid schizophrenics are not dangerous people, guys. I want to highlight that. They really aren't. They're more a danger to themselves than anything else, but most of them are not dangerous at all. So I'm just putting that out there. Initially, Donald was found to be manic depressive, but they did quickly change that to paranoid schizophrenia. Luca, at this point in time, at the point in time where his dad was going through this was when he started to develop his vanity towards himself. Classmates remembered how vain he was, and so did his teachers. There was not a mirror that Luca didn't love, let's just say, or even a window. When he saw his own reflection, he'd preen there for like 10 minutes. Everything had to be in a particular position, especially his hair. Remember what I said, that the kids would often touch it and it would drive him nuts? That's one of the reasons, is because he was very meticulous about it. He was very taken with his own looks at this point in time. I guess the acne must have cleared up. So you could see a sense of narcissism in him at this point in time. He has a very grandiose sense of himself. He thinks of himself as on a different wavelength than other people, like just as on a higher plane, if you will. He thinks that he is really, really handsome, that he's very good looking. He's very meticulous with his appearance. It matters to him. He is aware of what other people think. But yet deep down inside, and he feels very self-conscious, and he has very low self-esteem. The grandiosity is a part of hiding what he feels. It's just very much overblown. So his mother remarried, and Luca claims that his mother's new husband was very abusive towards him too. So at this point in time, he started moving out on his own. And at various points in time, once again, just like when he was a kid, he would live with Donald for a while. He would live with Phyllis for a while. He would live with Anna for a while. So he's doing another back and forth. His childhood was incredibly unstable, his earlier years. So at the age of 18, much like his dad, Luca started hearing voices. And he decided to tell his grandma. It was his grandma that brought him into the hospital. And at the hospital, the doctors did describe his behavior as being very bizarre. He was diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, just like his dad, shortly thereafter. And he was put on medications. He didn't stay on them, let's just say. At various points in times, he would go off his meds. And Luca was very much known to lie about his mental health. Anytime he went to go get assessed, he wouldn't necessarily tell the doctor that was assessing him that he was diagnosed as something else. So like his mom, he dropped out of school. He didn't finish high school. And he had like a succession of really low-paying jobs, guys. At one point in time, he turned to the welfare system because he wasn't making any money, of course, enough to support himself and to live on his own. And he often complained. He also went on disability at this point in time due to his mental health, because he would often complain about auditory and visual hallucinations, but he wasn't also taking his medications for it. He was admitted to a place called Harrison House, which is a psychiatric group home. And he swore at this point in time that the government was out to get him. He was very concerned that the government had it in for him. Unfortunately, there are a lot of paranoid schizophrenics that believe people are out to get them. It's just part of the disease. And Eric was certain it was the government. He also was certain that the government had bugged his room for some reason. So in August of 2001, he appears to be taking his meds, and he actually overdosed on a prescription benzodiazepine. If you guys remember from Melissa Ann Shepard, we talked about benzodiazepines, called clonazepam, or Klonopin, guys. It also shows up as Klonopin, but it's clonazepam that he overdosed on. Of course, this is used to treat seizures, panic disorders, anxiety, things of that nature. So he was on a medication. It may not have been due to the paranoid schizophrenia, though. It may have been a medication for anxiety. And he was sent to the hospital. This started a pattern of him being admitted to hospitals at various points in time for short stays. Once again, he would be seen by psychiatrists, but he wouldn't necessarily tell them what his actual diagnosis had been, and that would lead them to diagnose him as something else. He actually was in hospitals in both Canada and the US seeking treatment at this point in time. His home life was very chaotic, as we've said before, and unstable. He lives with his mom sometimes grandma, sometimes dad, sometimes on his own. It just all depends. He also apparently did at points in time live in both New York and Toronto. This may be according to him, so I don't know how much information we have that can back that up. But anyway, he was always on the move at this point in time. Of course, like I said, he'd lived an unstable life anyway, so he was used to it. But it was at this point in time that he started creating his own narrative and starting to hype himself up using the internet. The internet was a very useful tool for him. And because he wasn't often taking his meds, part of his hallucinations, etc., would become normalized in his life, and he would start to believe in them. He would tell himself these stories about himself so often that he would start to believe them. So if he told somebody off the street that 2 days ago he had lived in New York and he was out partying with, oh God, Ivanka Trump. Ugh, I don't know. I can picture him doing that. He was out partying with Ivanka Trump. He'd have you believe that, and in his mind, he would eventually believe that too, because he'd keep saying it to himself. It's the power of suggestion. He wanted to make himself be seen as enviable and important. He also had an inflated sense of self at this point in time. He was seeking fame. He was actively seeking fame. His parents named him after both Clint Eastwood and Kirk Douglas, so he thought that he deserved fame. He was destined for it. He was also never really comfortable with his own diagnoses. So when he entered his 20s, this is when he started his career in the sex industry. He didn't really have a lot of other avenues, guys. He wasn't able to hold down a job. This could be due to his mental health, of course. He was used to an unstable, chaotic lifestyle. He was very much inventing his own narrative at this point in time. And it was just very hard for him to keep a job. He was also on disability at this point in time too. And he was a high school dropout. So he really didn't have that many opportunities afforded to him. So he started to work in the sex industry. The industry seemed very exotic to him, but it also was very accepting of him. Like I said, he said he'd been bullied before. He hadn't been accepted. He'd been bullied for his looks, and this was a way for him to use his looks. At this point in time, he was very obsessed with himself, and he thought he was a very beautiful man. So he figured he could make adult films, let's just say. He made at least 2 films where he starred as a straight man who was turned gay. Luca's own sexuality is kind of up in the air as well. At this point in time, it doesn't appear like he has any interest in being transgender anymore. He has dated women. He also associates himself, okay, according to Luca at various times, I don't think he ever described himself as straight, but he has described himself as bisexual and he has described himself as gay. So I'm not sure how he identifies completely. But at this point in time in the movies, that was his general direction. Plus, at this point in time, he can also use this, right, for experience and stories to tell and to make himself look very exotic as well. And he was quite young at this point in time, right? Like 18, 19. So he was a hot commodity. He started his foray into porno by making his own videos and streaming them online. But of course he quickly gave that up because he said there were, quote, too many crazy people, end quote, out there that were watching these homemade videos. So he gave that up. His next step was to start stripping at a place called Remington's in 2002. If you guys have watched the second Village Murders video that I made, he's mentioned. He was known at this point in time to use the alias Nathan. Now, Remington's itself says that they don't have any recollection or any paperwork confirming that Eric ever worked there. But there has been numerous other people, including Luca himself, but other people that say, yes, he worked there. And I believe he was stripping under the name Nathan. If you guys remember, of course, there's more to that story later on as well. But it is possible that at that point in time, he was on, or even possibly a little later, he was on Zambia.com. Remember the cannibal website? Can't say for sure, but there's a possibility. I feel like Remington probably didn't want the notoriety associated with it. And I think it's been shut down by now too, guys. He only worked there for about 2 months, and then he started working as a male escort. And then after, he claims he was raped several times when he was working as an escort. So that might be why he started doing porn shortly after. But he did star in at least 4 videos, 2 of which, like I said, he portrayed the straight man who was turned gay. And another couple after that in 2004. So at this point in time, he was dating Nina Arsenal, who was a transgender woman. She's a full woman now, but at that point in time, she was transitioning when they started to get together. Now, Nina remembers that at this point, Luca was making really horrible jokes, if you will, about things like drowning kittens and about hurting people. According to her, quote, he said he would do anything to be famous, end quote. And, quote, I think he did that for a long time, the sex work industry. And then he needed to do something new, end quote. And, quote, he wanted to be legendary, end quote. So in 2004, like I said, he did 2 more porn videos. And in them, he played a character called Jimmy, which is interesting because Jimmy was his male escort name too. And it was also the name he used when he appeared in a magazine in 2005. This magazine was called Fab, and he was one of the pinup models in it. He was also known, of course, at this point in time to use the aliases Nathan, Justin, Eric Clinton Newman, just Kurt Newman, Vladimir Romanoff, Luca Magnotta, and Rocco. He would switch personas at any point in time. At various points in time, he has also been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. We discussed that with Melissa Ann Shepard, but also with Eileen Wuornos. It does seem that this would play into that because a person with borderline personality disorder doesn't necessarily have their own personality. They'll kind of glom things from other people, but they'll also feel the need to change their personality at different points in time. Like, oh, today I feel like being a pinup girl from the 1950s, so I'm going to dress like one. And I might dress like that for a little while. Then today I feel like being goth. So they're easily able to pursue different personalities. Luca was like this too. It was very easy. He's chameleon-like, guys. It was very easy for him to pick up one persona when he needed it and then shed it later. It was very easy for him to do that. We saw that when he was on the run, right? Like, it was very, very easy for him to look different. Kind of like Ted Bundy. And Luca at this point in time was also, let's just say, enhancing his looks. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. It was very easy for him to pick up a different persona. So in June of 2005, Luca was actually in court on his first arrest. This was on a fraud and impersonation charge in Toronto. He'd stolen a woman's credit card and charged $16,000 worth of stuff on it. Maybe some of it was plastic surgery, I'm not sure. At this point, police also alleged that Luca sexually assaulted a 21-year-old girl he'd met online. Now, the girl that he sexually assaulted actually had the mental age of around 8 or 9, guys. So she was very childlike when he forced her into participating in sex acts, and he also recorded them. He faced about a dozen charges stemming from this, guys, but they were withdrawn for some reason before trial. I don't know why. These are all alleged things. However, Luca did plead guilty to the fraud and the impersonation charges. So his lawyer for the sexual assault allegations said that if he had been convicted at this trial, if he had gone to trial for the sexual assault on the 21-year-old, he would have been forced to register as a sex offender. And that may have helped the police later on when they were building a case against him. But it also would have made him more known in the areas that he moved to eventually. You're supposed to register anywhere you go as a sex offender. That doesn't mean that he was going to. But he believes that if he had been charged, it would have also impacted his lifestyle, and he maybe wouldn't have committed his later crimes. He would have also had to have been monitored, right, and speak to people. But of course, this never happened. By this point, Luca knew the meds he was supposed to take. He knew his diagnosis. He had been in and out of hospitals in both Canada and the US, and he knew he was supposed to go to the hospital, he knew, to get his meds, but he didn't do it with regularity. He sometimes did it, sometimes didn't. And for the most part, it seems like he didn't. He either was choosing to ignore the diagnosis. He may have felt it was stifling his creativity. He may have felt that it was not a conclusive diagnosis because, remember, he would only say certain things to certain doctors. He was very uncomfortable with it. I don't know the exact reason, but like I said, it is very hard to enforce medications on a schizophrenic. And it doesn't look like Eric had anybody in his life that was appointed to kind of remind him to do it. So he wasn't taking his meds with any regularity at this point in time. In a letter from this time written by a psychiatrist who saw him, the doctor wrote that Luca, quote, would be prone to relapse of his symptoms, end quote, if he didn't take his meds. And yet he ignored it. Well, he was still Eric at this point in time. So Luca spent about 16 days in jail, stemming from the impersonation fraud charge, and he received a 9-month conditional sentence, which means that basically if you meet all the conditions within the 9 months of your sentence, then it's expunged from your record. The charge is dropped, so to speak. He also got 1 year probation at this point in time as well. The judge did take his mental health into account when he was sentencing Eric, and he actually said to Eric, quote, you have a medical problem. You need to always take medication. If you do not, your life is going to get messed up, end quote. Now, little did the judge know how true that statement was, but it didn't make Luca take his meds. So on August 12th of 2006, Eric Clinton Kirk Newman officially became Luca Rocco Magnotta. That was the day that he officially changed his name. To him, the name had like more charm and flair to it than just Eric Newman. It was just like flashy and exotic, and it just seemed like it screamed money. So he liked using this name. So by this point, Luca was actively portraying himself online as a man who had an exciting and wealthy lifestyle. He also tried to portray himself as glamorous as possible. And he said that he attributed all of this glamour and this wealth to working in the sex industry. However, in reality, in 2007, Luca was in court again. This time, he had filed for bankruptcy. He claimed that he could not hold down a job, although on the application for bankruptcy, he said that he was a server. It doesn't look like he ever spent any time working in restaurants. But anyways, he claimed he was a server. And at that point in time, he wasn't working and had an income. He said he actually had no monthly income and that he was $17,000 in debt, and claimed it was because of a combination of his mental illness and chronic unemployment. So regardless, he filed for bankruptcy and he was able to get it. He decided to go one step further in his quest for fame, and he actually started auditioning for reality TV shows at this point in time. You may have seen some of the auditions. I know that there were clips of them in Don't F With Cats. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet on Netflix. If you haven't, watch it. So he, sorry guys. He auditioned to be an underwear model for an Out TV reality show called Cover Guy. Of course, he didn't get the part. But he did give an interview to the Naked News as Jimmy, discussing his work as a stripper and male escort, and claiming to be wealthy because of that. So he did give an interview. It was this year in 2007 that he made one of his most audacious claims. This is another reason why I'm doing this story, because currently online, a few YouTubers have, of course, talked about this case. One said that it was during this point in time that Luca claimed that he was dating a very famous actress. That's untrue. He never claimed to date a very famous actress. Instead, he claimed to be in a relationship with someone much more infamous, guys, and that would be Karla Homolka. Luca himself put it out online that he and Karla Homolka were in a relationship. They had met at prison, not while they were in the prison together. I guess he said he was visiting someone. They had met each other and they were smitten with each other and they were dating. He may have done this. He did this for notoriety, guys, obviously. He did this to create a buzz in the media and to hype himself up so that he would look more attractive to TV shows, right? He's bringing the drama. He's bringing the notoriety. He's bringing the infamy. So he felt that people would be more prone to wanting to use him in the reality industry if he did this, I guess. And also, he kind of had an obsession with Karla Homolka. I can't lie, guys. He really did. So he claimed to be, of course, dating Karla Homolka. However, he did this under a different title, and he would release, he had various websites and various domain names and various different personas online, guys. So he would just use one of those personas to push out this information for him. This actually came out, guys, at his trial, that he was behind it. He then did an interview, and I've seen the interview. I think it's also on Don't F with Cats, denying that he was in a relationship with Karla Homolka. He did an interview as Luca Magnotta himself, denying all these allegations and these online rumors. And then he claimed that these allegations were actually ruining his career as an underwear model. So there you go. This was all carefully coordinated by him, though. Okay. And this would be like the first time that I could ever feel a tiny bit of something other than hatred for Karla Homolka. She must have been hella confused, guys, when she heard these rumors. Because at this point in time, obviously, she was living in the Caribbean and she was married to her lawyer's brother. That's a whole other kettle of fish. Allegedly, he also, during this time period, made a tribute video to Karla Homolka and the things that she had done and uploaded it to YouTube. So he was doing that. He didn't do it as Luca Magnotta. It was another one of his aliases. So in February of 2008, he tried out for another reality show. This one was called Plastic Makes Perfect, where people get like different plastic surgeries to make themselves look better, I guess. Now, by this point in time, Luca had already had several surgeries done, which is why I always wondered if he did, because his eyes always looked strange to me. Like it looked like his skin was very stretched very tight. And it would be because he did actually have his eyes done. He also had his nose done. He had a few hair transplants. Once again, I'm not sure what the reasoning for that might be, other than I think he had a pushback hairline. And he had some procedures done on his teeth. But apparently, according to him, by this point, he had become addicted to changing his appearance. And this was a quest to make himself become more beautiful and perfect in his own eyes and further boost his ego. However, it could also have been a consequence of the abuse and bullying he said he experienced as a child too. Most things said, like I said, most things said about him really do need to be taken with a grain of salt, guys. So I don't know. He claims that he also wanted to have his biceps and pectoral muscles enhanced. Like he wanted to have implants done there as well. He said that's what he wanted to do at this point in time. I don't know where he's, well, I guess he's using credit cards probably to pay for these procedures. I don't know. He doesn't have any money. The person who interviewed him for this reality show passed on him. There was just something about him that the person didn't like. She just saw something in him that she didn't like. This would be his last try at getting onto reality TV, and would kind of push him into the direction he was going to go. If he couldn't have fame, and he did try, but if he couldn't have fame, then he could have infamy. There had to be some way to get the public to notice him so he could be legendary. So it's at this point in time, he starts thinking a little bit darker. And he already has been thinking darker for a while. If you guys remember, his ex-girlfriend did say that he was joking around about drowning cats and hurting people. So I also have to say, guys, it's hard to know exactly what is truth and what is fiction in this case, because he created so many online things about himself and did things in various personas, some of which we found out at the trial, some of which we still can't be certain of. So everything kind of has to be taken with a grain of salt. At this point in time, he also uploaded a video to YouTube comparing himself to Myra Hindley. We talked about her a little bit at the end of the Wests, probably in the second part too. She was, before Rose, England's most hated woman, one of England's most hated women, because of her involvement, her and Ian Brady, in the Moors murders in the late 60s. These were child murders, and she was definitely very much a part of that. Kind of like Karla Homolka and her role in the murders, except, you know, she found a way out of it. But anyway, regardless, he's posting tribute videos to Myra Hindley at this point himself, or in time, and he compares himself to her. In 2010, Luca posted a link on his Facebook page called 3 Guys, 1 Hammer. I've heard about this with regards to a different case. Someone else talked about this. It's basically a video where 3 guys beat a man to death with a hammer. It's technically a snuff video. And he posted a link to it. This was when he also started posting pictures and information online saying he was in the various different places. Like he was in Russia, he was in Boston, he was in New York, he was in Miami, he was in Toronto, he was at various different places. So no one knew exactly where he was. He did this to fool people, and also to make people believe that he was living this jet-setting fancy life. It was like his own version of Where's Waldo, guys, except for it was like, where's Luca, I guess. It was kind of a dry run at this point in time for what he would later do. So a little bit before Christmas in 2010, Luca uploaded, it was definitely Luca who did this. It came out of trial. He uploaded a video called 1 Boy, 2 Kittens. This was actually a play on the link for 3 Guys, 1 Hammer. That's basically where he took that from. He did actually say at trial that it was him, because he wanted to see the public's response to a video depicting violence. This was violence towards animals, but he wanted to gauge people's responses to it. He wanted to see how many people were for it and how many people weren't. So this video, of course, is a hooded figure. It looks like he's wearing a hoodie, so I'm just going to call him like he was wearing a hoodie. It hid his face, but it shows this boy, faceless boy, loving up on some kittens before he then puts them into a plastic bag and sucks all the air out of it with a vacuum. So therefore the kitties can't breathe and they die. It's a snuff video, but not a human snuff video. But it's animal cruelty. It's animal cruelty for sure, guys. So this, of course, is the video that started the public hunt for Luca Magnotta. Of course, no one knew it was Luca Magnotta at that point in time. But this is the one that they talk about in Don't F With Cats, where people started to want to search for this guy, the sicko that made this video, and bring him to justice. So it was very, very shocking for most people on the internet, guys, because it's an animal cruelty video. Like, it's horrible, guys. It was very horrifying. They do show parts of it in, oh God, in Don't F With Cats. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but yeah, it's very disturbing. These poor little kitties, they had no idea. And he's like loving up on them. And then, yeah, the video was quickly taken down though, because it did show blatant animal cruelty and so many people had made remarks about it and complained about it. But one particular Facebook group called quote, "Find the Vacuum Killer Kitten for Great Justice," end quote. About 4,000 people were involved with this Facebook group. And they formed, of course, in retaliation to the video. About one of them had, maybe a few of them, had actually been able to post it somehow, or had actually been able to take it off the internet, like take it down and save it before it was completely gone. Sorry, I'm not good with technology, guys. I'm sorry. You guys obviously know I'm not good with technology. So anyway, they created this Facebook group to find him. And like I said, 4,000 people were on it. Many armchair detectives, of course, at this point in time, spent days combing through the videos to see if they could find various pieces of information in them, which would lead them to discover this person's locale and be able to report them and find out who they were. There were definite things, including, I think it was a Casablanca poster. And I remember them talking about the type of vacuum that he had, because a lot of people initially thought that this was being posted from Russia. And from time to time, someone would chime in online who turned out to be Luca himself, but we'll get to that in a little bit. On December 28th, 2010, Rescue Inc., which is an animal rights / protection group, offered a $5,000 reward to anyone who could find out the identity or had information about the online kitten killer. The Animal Beta Project, so ABP, which is still running today, and that's the Facebook group from Don't F With Cats, was formed at this point in time because of the videos. And they were the ones who extensively studied them in an effort to find out who Luca was. And they actually did end up finding out who he was, but it took them quite a while. They were able to tentatively link Luca at this point in time on the 28th to the video. Now, you're going to ask yourself, why? How were they able to do this? Because a mysterious photo, more than likely posted by him, showed up online showing Luca holding those same two kittens, or what could only be described as the same two kittens based on their looking and everything. It was uploaded to the website, to ABP's website at that point in time. Oh, hi Lola. So 4 days after that, ABP received an email from an anonymous person saying that the person in the picture was Luca Rocco Magnotta. And the email made it seem like Luca was in LA at that point in time, Los Angeles at that point in time. So the group suspected, and they were right to do so, that Luca actually sent it himself, you know, to create more media swirl, to say, oh, look, I'm over in LA, even though he wasn't in LA, you know, kind of like a wild goose chase. And he wanted people to know where he was too, so that people would come up and be like, oh my God, you're the animal killer. And he'd be like, oh no, somebody posted that about me, blah, 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 create more hype about himself. So he had many profiles online, like we said before, at his disposal. He could have easily picked whichever one he wanted to, many web domain names. He could have picked anyone he wanted to and posted as that person. The group was able to ascertain, though, through careful work, they had to do a lot of work, guys, that most of the pictures online of Luca in these various places like Boston or New York or Russia were doctored to make it look like he was there. They were manipulated using various techniques to make it look like he was in those places, even though he wasn't. Eventually, they did find one photo that did have a real GPS of where Luca was, a real stamp of where he was, and they were able to trace that photo to Toronto. They were actually able to basically pinpoint the area from various landmarks. And of course, it was shown that Luca was in Toronto. So they contacted the OSPCA, the Ontario Society for the Prevention of, Animal Cruelty, I want to say, the Ontario Society for Prevention of Cruelty Towards Animals. APB, the Animal Beta Project, actually contacted the OSPCA. And so the OSPCA opened a file on Luca, and they actually worked with police and the RCMP to find him, but of course they had no luck either. They knew the pictures were doctored, but they didn't have any verifiable proof of exactly where Luca was at that point in time. He was able to avoid an animal cruelty charge because of this, but APB believed him to be very dangerous, and they felt like he was going to move on from killing animals to killing humans, particularly because he had already threatened to. We'll get into that in a little bit. So in December of 2011, he posted another animal abuse video showing the hooded boy and the apartment, the Casablanca poster and everything else. And this one was of a kitten being fed to a python. He posted it up, of course, to taunt the group and to get more response. And shortly thereafter, he also posted a video of himself, once again, you know, hooded. This one's so disturbing. Oh, okay. Taping a cat to a broom and drowning it in a bathtub. And this was... He was taunting people and saying, it was kind of like a catch me if you can. And at the same point in time, in order to stay off the radar, he put out a story online that said that Luca Magnotta had gone to Russia. So to get the heat off of him in Canada, he hadn't. So to get the heat off of him in Canada, he said that he was now in Russia. APB responded by making their own video, complete with pictures and interviews and storylines and the various aliases that Luca Magnotta was known to go by. They retaliated by posting a video of that online so people would know what he looked like and the various different ways he could look. They accused him publicly at that point in time. Before then, they were only accusing him through the Facebook group and the project. But and I guess they had told the police as well. But at this point in time, they publicly accused Luca Magnotta of being the boy in the animal cruelty videos. And this video went viral. On December 8th of 2001, the UK Sun, the United Kingdom Sun, got a tip that Magnotta was in the area. So a journalist actually was able to find him and confronted him, but he didn't get anything from it. However, 2 days later, on the 13th of December, the UK Sun got an email from one John Kilbride. John Kilbride was actually one of the victims of Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. So this was another reference to the Moores murders. This email was confirmed to be from Luca at trial. It was confirmed to be from him. Because, of course, he loved to play games and he loved to screw with people and he wanted his infamy. So he wanted to taunt the public further. In this email, he threatened explicitly to kill again. And this would be about 6 months before he did so. But this time, it wouldn't be an animal. And he also said he was going to make a video of it and post it online. He actually said, quote, "You know the fun part of all this?" He actually said, quote, "You know, the fun part of all this is watching millions of people get angry and frustrated because they can't catch me. That's why I love this. I love the risk factor," end quote. So the people at the APB, of course, were very worried about this. They had a right to be. They had figured from early on that he meant to kill humans. And the person in the email clearly stated that they were going to kill somebody and film it. So like many other killers, you know, Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac, Peter Sutcliffe, etc., etc., he liked to write to newspapers, email in this case, to newspapers to disseminate further information. And he liked to taunt the police as well. The journalist, of course, that found him in the UK spoke to police, but they claimed at this point in time, despite the email claiming that he would kill people and pretty much them having definitive knowledge that he was the guy based in the animal cruelty videos, they declined to take on the case because it was out of their jurisdiction, even though Luca was in the UK at that moment. But anyway, and Luca was thus able to escape back to Canada. So the ABP sent all the proof they had collected on Luca to police in Canada, and also to police in some parts of the States as well, urging them to find Luca, especially because of his threat that he would kill somebody and film it. But nothing happened. He had a huge online presence for the police to comb through, and they'd have to go through every single one of them. And much of the information about him online wasn't true, right? He posted it himself. So these were his own stories, his own narratives that he was posting himself. So it was very hard to disseminate truth from fiction. It still is, guys, but it was very hard at that point in time. He also, because he had gone bankrupt, had no credit cards. So there was never a paper trail for Luca Magnotta. He, at this point in time, started taunting members of the Animal Beta Project, guys, posting information on the Facebook group and through their own website, through the ABP's own website. He started posting personal information of them, including like their houses, and posting where their houses were, and posting things, personal things about them online too. So in early 2012, ABP got a tip saying that Luca was in Montreal, Quebec. They actually had found a photo showing various landmarks in Montreal, and they were able to triangulate an approximate area that Luca was in. You guys probably saw that in the video if you watched Don't F With Cats. So they were able to see this. Someone sent them this photo, and they were able to pinpoint that it was from Montreal. And by looking at landmarks in various areas of Montreal, they were able to pinpoint a specific area where they felt Luca was housed in, the building that they thought he lived in. However, at this point in time, Luca had already moved on. He was posting using his various aliases and websites. He was posting at this point in time on these various websites and using different personas about things like necromania. And that's why I mentioned Zambia.com, because at this point in time, police thought that Skanda, Navaratnam, was possibly a part of and murdered by somebody from Toronto in a cannibal sex ring, because they did have a couple people that posted and were talking about things. And remember, the one guy was a coach, and there were far more people in Toronto that were interested in cannibalism than I ever realized. But like I said, someone had posted to this website as a man named Nathan, and Nathan was a known alias of Luca Magnotta, and he was questioned later on about possibly being involved in Skanda's death, but of course he wasn't. That was Bruce MacArthur, but he was questioned because of that. So at this point in time, Toronto police actually contacted Luca's old landlord, and this would be in March of 2012, only to find out, because they wanted to go and search the place, only to find out that Luca had moved on about 2 weeks earlier. Now, according to the landlord, Luca told him he was moving to Toronto, but that was untrue, of course. He wanted somebody to think he was moving there. In reality, he'd only moved a few blocks away to another low-rent apartment in Montreal, the infamous apartment. So in April 2012, a video claiming Luca was, quote, a dangerous psychopath, end quote, and telling people to avoid all contact with him, because if they saw him, he was dangerous, showed up online. It was thought that Luca posted it himself. I'm still not sure. And at this point in April, so 1 month before what he was going to do, Luca was once again worried about himself. This was never mentioned at trial. And he actually went to go see another psychiatrist. This one diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder, which of course we discussed a tiny bit, and we will talk about a little bit later on too. Basically, you know, unstable personal relationships, impulsivity, particularly sexual promiscuity, manipulative, prone to wild mood swings, prone to fits of anger, things of that nature. And like I said, having a very unstable viewpoint of your own sense of self and who you really are. So Luca was diagnosed with BPD at this point in time. And usually borderline personality disorder has to do with childhood trauma. So it is possible he could have had that as well due to the trauma he said that he experienced as a child. He didn't, however, tell this psychiatrist that he was hearing voices, nor did he tell him or her about the fact that he had already been previously diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic. He never mentioned that at all, because he thought he'd be hospitalized at that point in time, and he didn't want to be. So he didn't go to the hospital, guys. He basically left without seeking medical treatment. They let him go without any type of treatment. So just give me 1 second, guys. We're gonna bring it up now. I think I just did that wrong. Okay. So here are some of the many faces of Luca Magnotta. Oh, sorry guys, I know there's a little bit. There we go. Many faces. You can see how chameleon-like he was. He also looks really evil in the bathing suit one. I think it's just because of his eyebrows, but there is something very disturbing about him in that. Just give me 1 second. I just want to have that picture ready because we're going to need it soon. So at this point in time, after about 18 months, the OSPCA felt that they finally had enough evidence on Luca to get him arrested on animal cruelty charges. They actually contacted the Montreal SPCA, so the MSPCA, and because Luca was ostensibly there, to see if they could get in contact with the police or if they could at least question Luca. But because Montreal itself didn't have an SPCA file on Luca or any information on him being involved in animal cruelty other than what Ontario said, they declined to look into it, actually. They said they had no evidence, so they didn't open a file. However, I don't know why they wouldn't work with Ontario. They just didn't. So once again, Luca slipped under the radar. A prosecutor at this point in time for the Crown did try to get an arrest warrant for Luca as well, for the charges of animal cruelty, but a judge didn't issue it. It wasn't issued at this point in time. Now, we're going to talk about the victim. This is why I did this, guys. Like, this guy he just looks like such a nice guy. So there are some pictures, hopefully you can see them well, of Jun Lin. Before you say anything, I know some of you are going to complain because he is also known as Lin Jun. So Junlin, but he's also known the opposite way in various reports. Most of the articles, most of the attributed, like accredited articles from the CBC or Global, do call him Jun Lin. So I'm going to call him that, but I'm actually going to refer to him by his Canadian name, which is Justin. So Jun was actually born in the Wuhan district of China. It was actually a really remote area of it, to his mother and father on December 30th of 1978. He also appears to at least have one sister. I believe she's a younger sister as well. Now, his family didn't have a lot of money, obviously, guys. They were from a very rural area. There wasn't a lot of opportunities. The family actually shared one bike from the sounds of it. But they were a very loving family, and they did have a lot of happy times together. Justin has been described as loving, caring, a very nice person. He was very popular. He was very energetic and outgoing. He's been described as very adventurous and very, very caring, guys. I don't think I can get that point out enough. He was a very kind and caring young person. He was also very, very smart. And his main dream was to move to Canada, get an education, get a good job so that he could send money back home and take care of his parents and his sister. That's why he worked as hard as he did, because he wanted to contribute to his family. That was his main dream. And he definitely wanted to live in Canada. And it appears that Montreal was basically his first pick. That was definitely where he wanted to live. He's also been described as a very handsome man too. I don't want to leave that out. He was actually a very handsome man. He's just the kind of person that you want to hug. He seems like a very good person. And I guess we know from the last video that sometimes being a good person sets you up for danger. So he very much looked forward to settling in a Canadian city. Now, reports differ on this. Some say that he moved here in late 2011. In mid 2011, in July of 2011. Some reports say that he actually came here in December of 2010. So we'll say for these purposes that he was in the city for about a year. He quickly made friends. He was able to quickly make friends here in Canada. He just had a very outgoing personality and a very warm personality. He'd be somebody that you definitely want to make friends with. And in Canada, when he came over, he became known as Justin to his friend group and his various other acquaintances. So he attended Concordia University, which was in Montreal. And he actually looks like he was double majoring, guys, because he was studying both engineering and computer sciences at this point in time. He was very, very close to his family. He remained very close to his family, and they would often talk at least once a day, if not through Skyping, then through texting. Now, a lot has been made online of the fact that most pictures you see of Justin, he's alone. So a lot of people try to say it looks like he's narcissistic and things like that. That's not true. The reason why you see so many pictures of, or even streams of Justin alone is because his mother and father, but particularly his mother, were very worried when he moved to Canada. He's 3,000 miles away from them. It's not like they can actually see him every day in person. So he would often send them photographs or live streams of the various things he did in the city so that they would know he was safe. He did that to assuage their fears, guys, to make them less afraid of him being in Canada. But his mother in particular was very afraid for his safety in Canada. It's a different area. It's a big city. He wasn't used to a city, right? He lived in a rural area, so they were worried. To help pay his way through school, Jun also worked part-time because he was very financially responsible, let's just say. So he worked part-time at a convenience store in the neighborhood of Point St. Charles. Now, his boss said he was really friendly. All the customers loved him. He was very courteous, and he was pretty much a model employee. Justin could always be counted on to show up for his shift. He could always be counted on to show up on time, and he would also take other shifts if he could. He was a very reliable, responsible worker. His boss wanted that very much highlighted. He was somebody who could be counted on. This would all change, though, in May of 2012. So Justin, on May 1st, had just recently moved into his own apartment with a roommate, and this was in the Griffintown area of Montreal. Now, Stories differ of how Justin and Luca Magnotta came in contact with each other. According to Luca, this is according to Luca, guys, so I don't know how much of it you can believe. On the evening of May 24th, 2012, he met up with Justin for the first time at a metro stop because Justin had answered a Craigslist ad looking for, from a man, looking for, quote, kinky sex and bondage, end quote, with another man. Now, Justin was a gay man, and some reports say that he was out and proud. Other reports say that he was hiding it from his family, and his ex-boyfriend also said he was hiding it from his family. There are reports out there that say that Justin's family was not comfortable with his sexuality. There are other reports that say they didn't know about it. In fact, when Justin lived in China, he was actually married for a short while and then divorced. His ex-boyfriend does remember that Justin's parents at this point in time were pushing him to date and settle down with a woman. In fact, that's the reason given that Justin and his ex broke up. And just days before Justin disappeared, his ex, who actually lived in Canada with him, had gone back to China to visit some people. However, Justin and his ex were still in contact and they still remained good friends. So we're not entirely certain how the two of them met up, but they did. It's also possible that Luca could have met up with him at work, at Justin's job. Justin was such a friendly guy, and a lot of people remember that he always loved making friends. So it's possible they could have struck up a conversation, and being that he was so, come on, girl, such an extrovert, it's possible that he met up with Justin at a later date, or later on, because he wanted to be his friend. It's possible. I don't really know, guys. I'm not sure. What I do know is that there is security footage of the two entering Luca's building, which is the last known image of Justin definitively alive and unhurt, at around 10:20 p.m. Some reports say 9 o'clock, guys, but police themselves said that it was 10:20 p.m. that they saw this. Police themselves acknowledge that they have no idea how Luca and Justin actually met. There is no online correspondence between the two of them. There are no text messages between the two of them. And there are no photos of either of them on either of their computers. There's no photos of Justin on Luca's stuff. There's no photos of Luca on Justin's stuff. So police say they have no idea how the two of them actually met. According to Global News, Justin sent his ex-boyfriend a text around midnight or so of the 24th, so going into the early 25th, and footage does show Magnotta wearing the shirt that it appears Justin came to his house in at around 2:06 a.m. in the garbage room of his building. He's seen numerous times that night getting rid of, I think they said at least 8 times, getting rid of various pieces of garbage. We'll never know for sure, for absolute certainty, what happened to Justin in that building, because all we have is Luca's account. There is some evidence that there were sedatives in Justin's body. It's conceivable that Luca may have drugged him first. According to the ex-boyfriend, Justin didn't smoke, drink, do drugs, and he was a, quote, fitness buff. He, at trial, said that he and Justin were faithful to each other and had a normal sexual relationship. They didn't engage in bondage or anything like that. Who can say for certain? I mean, Luca's kind of a lot like Fred West in where he has something in his mind, an ideal of a relationship in his mind or whatever, and he projects that. The defense did try to paint Justin as a sexually promiscuous young man who liked to view hardcore porn because they found some porn on his computer. and was interested in BDSM. There were indications from his computer that he had Skyped with and had had chats with various other men. And they brought them up to his ex-boyfriend, and his ex-boyfriend was like, yeah, but that was after we broke up. It's conceivable that Justin was just exploring himself. They also claimed that Justin used various online names to post quote unquote dark messages. I don't know what they are, but they were trying to allege that he was this sex fiend who loved bondage and partook in it of his own accord. Now, like I said, the last message that Justin sent was to his ex, and his ex became concerned because they did talk several times a day, even though they had been broken up. His ex became concerned because he didn't hear from him in the next few days. His boss, of course, at work on the 25th, because he was supposed to go to work, also became concerned. And Justin was reported as missing around this point in time. So on May 25th, 2012, around 11 minutes, it's a little bit shorter than 11-minute video entitled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick" showed up on the website bestgore.com. The video showed a naked man, okay, sorry guys, sorry, trigger, bound with a scarf over his mouth and eyes. At this point in time, it appears that the man is alive and just that he's been drugged. He doesn't seem to be moving. He doesn't seem to be harmed at that point. Scene. The song True Faith is playing in the background by New Order, and I believe Luca also did this in his animal cruelty videos. And you can actually see the Casablanca poster, as well as various other things that were the same as in the cat videos. So once again, a person whose face is hidden is shown to be sitting on the chest of the person laying on this mattress, but he doesn't hurt him at that point. So the camera is moved at this point in time, and one can actually see the faceless man. We'll just call him the faceless man. One can actually see the faceless man go to the side of the naked man and viciously start stabbing him with what people assume is an ice pick. It's actually a screwdriver, but it was set up to look like an ice pick. There are reasons for it. We'll get into them later. So you can see him repeatedly stab him with a screwdriver. And at points in time, it looks like the screwdriver has actually gotten stuck on things. I'm sorry. He does this for about a minute straight, but people will notice that there is no blood that comes out of the body and no blood spray. So obviously at this point in time, I'm assuming most people are thinking this person has to be dead. The body also doesn't react. There's no twitches, no anything. This proves that Justin was actually dead before Luca started filming. So though it's a snuff film, I guess it's not an accurate snuff film, because most snuff films, a snuff film actually shows a murder happening on video. This video was after the murder. It's still a snuff film. It's hard to define. So like I said, it's not close to it's as close to a snuff film as you're going to get. The faceless person then brings the camera closer to the body and pulls back the scarf and reveals that the neck of his victim has been severed, almost all the way down to decapitation, almost decapitated. Almost. So Luca then uses a steak knife to make various cuts on Justin's arms and legs. And he further reveals that Justin's throat has not just been cut at this point in time, because there are some lapses in the footage, but that Justin's actually been decapitated. Luca picks up the head and starts rolling it around like a ball for a while. He then flips Justin's body over onto his stomach and uses a knife to fully sever his right arm. He even stops to zoom in on the process so you can see it happening. Then he takes the severed arm and rubs his crotch with it through his pants, and then he actually pulls down his pants and uses the severed hand to masturbate. There is a time lapse, and then when we see the body again, it's actually lacking both of its arms and its right leg, and the left leg is in the process of being cut off. So he brings the camera in close so that the viewer can actually see all these cut marks, can see the process. And he shows the stump where the right leg used to be. So he actually shows the process of him cutting off the left leg, and then he shows the right leg. There's another time lapse, and then you can see the headless, dismembered corpse, fully dismembered corpse. Again, still on its stomach, and he simulates anal sex with it, the corpse. We don't know for certain he's having sex with the corpse because of the camera angle. You can't tell if it's a simulation or if he actually is. So he may be performing necrophilic acts on the body. I can't say if he's fully doing it himself. I've never seen the video, guys. I don't want to see the video. This is just a description. I'm sorry. I don't want to see it. I can't. Then there's another. So after that, oh God, he then cuts off a chunk of Justin's buttocks with a knife and fork. And he then brings up this like little black and white puppy onto the bed and shows the puppy like chewing on one of the leg stumps. The puppy is also later killed too, but he doesn't film it this time. We're led to believe that Luca ate the piece of body, the piece of flesh he took from Justin's buttocks. So he may have also engaged in cannibalism. We're not sure. So he then violates Justin with a wine bottle. You know what I mean. And though not on the online video, I guess police were able to get images from his camera and computer later on. So I guess he must have edited the video. It was found at trial that he then sodomized the body with a knife as well. And then the video goes back after a time lapse to showing Luca masturbating with one of Justin's severed hands. And it ends with him videotaping the various body parts in various areas, like Justin's head on the bathroom floor, some of his body parts in the tub, an arm in the freezer, and things like that. It shows that. The last image on the video is of Justin's head with his throat slit, and I've seen some of the images, and yeah. Okay, so security cameras in the apartment do show Luca calmly making the several trips to the garbage room with various bags of garbage. I want to say it was 8 times, guys, but it may have been different. He was ostensibly getting rid of evidence, but he didn't do it very well because the apartment was still had blood on the walls. Still had some blood stains. The mattress was left in there. There was still, the arm was still left in the freezer, so he didn't clean it up very well, but regardless, he did clean up. The camera also picks him up, bringing up, I'm going to guess from storage, a large blue and gray suitcase. So at 4:38 a.m., Luca bought a ticket to Paris. Yeah, so even though he says, yeah, he had the foresight to buy a ticket to Paris because he's intending on going on the run. And this would leave on May 26th, which was fine by him, even though it was the next night. He's already uploaded this video. He's already done what he had to do because he had some packages he needed to mail away first. And he is actually caught on camera at the mail, at his various post office, I guess, mailing some of these packages. So he left many clues behind in the video. I think he always knew he was going to get caught because so much of what was in the video was actually shown in the animal cruelty videos. I'm betting that he wanted to be caught for it. He wanted that infamy. He figured this was the best way he could get it. If he couldn't be famous on TV for one thing, he could be famous within the media for murder. He wanted infamy, and he probably wanted it for a while. Look at who he's associating himself with, you know, Myra Hindley, Karla Homolka. I mean, really. Regardless, he planned to go on the run. I just wanted to point out, in the video, he's shown wearing a hoodie, right? We can see various things in the apartment that line up with things that were in his other apartment from the kitten videos, including the Casablanca poster. The fact that the boy never speaks is another one of them, and the choice of music too. So before he departs for France, Luca stuffed Justin's torso in the suitcase and left it outside at the garbage dumpster. Just left it there. He hid his head in a park, and he packaged up various body parts, like I said before, to be sent through the mail. Okay. And these would be sent to not just various government agencies, because remember, he's very paranoid about the government, thinks they're out to get him, but also to some schools. And then he departs for France. And as far as I know, they do have security footage of him leaving for France too, from the airport. So the video, of course, did not take long to take off. A lot of people were horrified by it. A lot of people were outraged by it. Some people, especially from APB, were able to immediately recognize it as Luca's work and basically said, "We told you so." And they, of course, reported it to both police in Toronto, because they were under the assumption that Luca was in Toronto at that point in time, and also the FBI in the United States. However, both agencies at this point in time, on the 25th, 26th, thought that the video was a hoax. They thought that it was fake. Some people actually said that they were inspired by Luca's work, and that scares me even more. So on May 29th of 2012, police were called to, of course, Magnotta's former apartment building, which was in the Côte de Neige area of Montreal. So a janitor named Mike Nadeau had actually found the suitcase. Now, he'd seen it about a week earlier, guys, but thought it was just normal trash. However, he was now getting several complaints from people in the building about a smell, and the smell seemed to be coming from the suitcase. And of course, when the suitcase was opened up, he called police. And when police opened up the suitcase, it was revealed that it was a human torso in there. They didn't know who it was at this point in time. They just saw the torso. Justin, like I said, at this point in time, had already been reported missing by his various friends. There are some reports that say on the 27th, his friends actually went to his apartment and noticed that nothing was missing, nothing was out of the ordinary, and that Justin wasn't there. They did actually contact his mother in China to see if she had heard from him. And of course she hadn't, and that intensified her worries even more. She said she had a bad feeling after speaking to her son's friends about the situation. So shortly after this, he was reported missing. However, he wasn't linked up yet to the body. At about 6 p.m. the same night on the 26th, about 200 kilometers away from Luca's apartment, Prime Minister, he was our Prime Minister at the time, Stephen Harper, his deputy, sorry guys, Chief of Staff, actually opened a package. This package, she didn't think there was anything sinister about it at this point in time. It was a box, and then there was a bunch of tissue paper inside, and then underneath the tissue paper was like a black gift bag. However, when she got to the gift bag, she noticed the stench immediately. So she then called the police, who came and found that it contained one of Justin's severed feet. DNA tests were eventually able to say that both the torso and the foot belonged to Justin Lin. The return address was from one Logan Valentini. Now, I don't expect you guys to know who this person is. I did, but I only know it from the 2014 trial. This would be Lori Homolka's alias, her new name. Of course, she didn't want the infamy that came from being associated with Karla Homolka, from knowledge that they were sisters and from the Homolka name. So she changed her name to that at some point in time. And that's the return address Luca put on the package. Plus he's obsessed with Carla, so it makes sense. I am interested in knowing how he knew her alias, though. That wasn't a piece of information that most people knew at that point. So a different package containing one of Justin's severed hands was actually also sent to, Stephen Harper was a conservative, guys. That's a rough equivalent to an American Republican. The other main party in Canada. Well, there's a lot of parties, the NDP, the Green, but the other party at that point in time, which would, I believe they were the opposition at that point in time, would be the Liberal Party. So Canada Post was actually able to intercept a package containing one of Justin's severed hands on its way to the Liberal Party headquarters in Ottawa at that point in time as well. They got it before it arrived. So at this point, police decided to check Luca's apartment. They did this because originally they thought that the body or the torso in the, oh, sorry guys, my notes are really itchy today. They thought that the torso contained in the suitcase was actually Luca's because he'd left a tag. Yeah. He'd left a tag on the suitcase bearing his name, Luca Rocco Magnotta, and his date of birth. So police initially thought that it was him. They entered his apartment and of course they saw the horrors inside. The blood-stained mattress with the plastic sheeting over top of it. I'm guessing he wrapped it in plastic sheeting after he killed Justin. I don't know why, but it was left there. They had a blood trail going to various areas, like from the bathtub into the kitchen. The severed arm was in there. You could see some outlines of where his head had been, etc., etc. At this point in time, they knew something that had gone on terribly wrong, and that more than likely the suspect was Magnotta, especially since they had reports from the animal Beta Project, as well as the OSPCA and various other things, right? They had these reports, so they're starting to build a case against Luca. There was also a message written by Luca, I believe it was in a closet, that said, quote, "If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. I don't care," end quote. So kind of like he's taunting himself. Like he loved his reflection, but he didn't because he felt he had to alter it. So it's like he's telling himself, well, then don't look in the mirror. Don't care anymore, I guess. So police in Montreal, of course, issued an arrest warrant on May 30th for Luca Magnotta. The RCMP joined in slightly later and made it a Canada-wide warrant. He was wanted for 5 separate crimes at this point in time. So first degree murder of Justin, committing an indignity to a human body, making, printing, publishing, distributing, or circulating obscene material, making use of the mail for the purpose of transmitting and or delivering obscene material, and the criminal harassment of Stephen Harper and various other parliament members. So in Luca's apartment, actually this was outside of Luca's apartment, police found a pair of scissors, 2 knives, the screwdriver fashioned to look like the ice pick, an oscillating saw, God, and a hammer. Police also found inside the apartment a bloody pink sheet that had been shown actually in the One Lunatic, One Ice Pick video, as well as a blood-streaked purple shower curtain that was also in the video, so they could link the 2 of them up. It was now obvious to them that the video was not a fake that was online. So on May 31st, Interpol got involved and issued a worldwide arrest warrant for Luca Magnotta, told people to be on the lookout for him. They also did say that he was considered dangerous. They knew he'd fled to Europe. I believe they had the security footage, but also I think he used his own name when he booked the ticket to Paris. I'm not completely sure about that, guys. And on June 1st, police were able to reveal the identity of the victim as Jun Lin, or Jun Justin Lin. Due to all of Luca's extensive online ramblings, all of his personas, his weird tribute videos to Myra Hindley and to Karla Homolka, because they were able to find out all of his aliases at this point in time, the message sent to the UK Sun saying that he was going to kill somebody and film it, etc., etc. They were actually trying to see if Luca could have been involved in any other murders, any of the recent murders from the area, from both, he was looked at for murders in both Miami, Los Angeles, and another murder in Montreal. However, he was never definitively linked to these murders. It appears that somebody else did them. Luca did not take part in them at all, but he was looked at for various other murders. So on June 3rd, he was actually caught on camera at a cafe in Paris, and a bunch of other people had seen him too. So of course, and at this point in time, it's an internet cafe, so he was keeping tabs on himself and news regarding himself. He'd kind of laid low, but not really. In order to hype up, he wanted coverage of himself, right? He wanted all of these rumors and everything to be out there online. So of course he is checking in on the various stories, and he is at this cafe and people did see him. He's also caught on video there. He probably reveled in it. But regardless, at this point in time, he changed his appearance. We know he's able to, and actually went to Germany. He took a bus to Germany and he bought a ticket under the name Kirk Trammell. Now, you guys don't or may not know this part of the story, but Luca's favorite movie when he was a kid was actually Basic Instinct. Now, before you look too much into it, a lot of us have favorite movies that are, I love The Exorcist. I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Doesn't mean I'm going to go out and kill people. They just happen to be movies I liked. That was one of his favorite movies. His mom even attested to it in Don't F with Cats, right? He had the movie poster and everything. Well, Trammell was the last name of Sharon Stone's character. And the ice pick he used in the video was paying homage to that character too, was paying homage to Basic Instinct. So he booked his name under Kirk Trammell and ended up in Berlin, Germany. On June 4th, 2012 at about 2 p.m., he was in an internet cafe in Berlin. He was recognized by the store owner. The store owner called police, and police came and arrested Luca there. When he was found, he was checking himself out online. He was looking for stories of himself online, as well as looking at porn. And when he was arrested, he didn't fight back. He didn't do anything. He just surrendered. He even said to one of the officers, "Okay, you got me." Like, he wasn't really hiding himself. I mean, he did alter his appearance and he did use a different name, but I think it was one of his known aliases. He didn't really do much to hide himself. No, there was no fight at all. So on June 5th, an elementary school in Vancouver received a package containing one of Justin's hands. The return address was once again Logan Valentini. And shortly thereafter, a different school, a different elementary school in Vancouver received a package containing one of Justin's feet. The return address this time was for Hubert Chrétien, who was our old prime minister before Stephen Harper. It was his son, Jean Chrétien's son. So on June 18th, of course, Luca was extradited back to Canada to stand trial. He entered a not guilty plea. And on July 1st, he actually revealed to his lawyer where Jun's head was so that the body could be returned. He said there was something in him that that he felt that he should give out that information. So he told his lawyer where to find it, and his lawyer contacted the police and told them where to get it from. Jun was then cremated and laid to rest at a cemetery in Montreal. His parents even said in their eulogy that they chose to bury him in the place that he loved the most, which was Montreal. And during the eulogy, Justin's mom actually forgave Luca. She said she recognized that most people in Canada were good. And she said she felt bad for Luca because of what she had heard happen to him, his traumatic childhood, whether it was or not. According to Luca, it was. And there are some indications that it was. She said she heard about that and that she felt sympathy for him because of that. Like, this is a really strong, brave woman. She's got a big heart, guys. And they actually set up a fund in Justin's name to help troubled youth so that they don't end up in situations like this. So his trial actually started September 29th of 2014. And of course, a publication ban was put on any news of it from his arrest until after the trial. Luca actually stunned the court by admitting that he had killed Jun Lin, but he pled not guilty to the 5 charges by insanity, reason of insanity. It's not called insanity anymore, guys. It's called not criminal responsible because of his mental health. So he actually pled not criminally responsible for his actions because he claims he didn't know right from wrong at that point in time. We're going to get into it. So the defense brought forth Luca's father and had him explain all about his diagnosis. They brought forth various psychiatrists who had treated Luca and mental health experts that he'd seen that could all attest to Luca's various diagnoses, including borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality, and paranoid schizophrenia. I think there were a couple others they talked about too. They all talked about that and how he was predisposed to and had suffered from. Definitely, he did have mental health problems. So they did bring that out at trial. The Crown pointed out how calm Luca was on camera after the crime, how he got rid of evidence, just calmly, how he at one point in time ordered a pizza while he was getting rid of the garbage and calmly ate it with Justin's body parts in his home. They also talked about the fact that he sent the various parts through the mail, not using his return addresses, but certain people's, famous, infamous people's kind of family members as the return addresses. They pointed out all of that, as well as the fact that he ran, that he already had an escape plan, because at 4:38 a.m. on the 25th, he already had his ticket. So if you're mentally incapacitated, how are you able to do all these things, was their main argument. Now, there was actually one good thing that came from this trial. Both Hubert Chrétien and Logan Valentini, aka Lori Homolka, had to take the stand and say, no, it was not us that sent those packages. That's not our writing. We don't even know anything about that. They had to take the stand. I think they were prosecution witnesses. But one of the lawyers did ask her where her sister was at this point in time. And through the trial, we learned that Karla Homolka was living back in Quebec. Before this, we didn't know she was back in Canada. So I guess that is one good thing from the trial. So it was shown, also, one of the return addresses for the boxes was Bordelais, which is actually Karla Homolka's married last name. Now married last name. Current. Well, it doesn't appear that she and the husband are together any longer. You know. So it was shown that Justin likely died from the cut to his neck, though he had way over 100 stab wounds or cuts, both deep and superficial to his body. He also, of course, had that piece of buttocks removed, and his head also showed a lot of blunt force trauma, guys. And they attributed that to the hammer that they found. So it's possible he could have died from blunt force trauma, but it appears that he died from the neck wound and that Luca just hit him in the head afterwards. It also showed, and that dismemberment, of course, happened after the death. The autopsy also showed that he had sleeping pills and allergy medication in his system, like I said, that it appeared that he was drugged at death. And it also appeared that Luca had tried to remove his fingerprints off one of his hands to further stop IDing him. Luca didn't testify and did later state, this was a couple years later, to the Toronto Sun, himself that he did not agree with the not criminally responsible defense, but his lawyer pushed him into it. He said he played along because his lawyer told him to. So even he said at that point in time, he was not suffering from a psychotic or a schizophrenic break. He did it because he did it. The court also heard that about various, that Luca had also been diagnosed as manic depressive. He told one doctor he thought he was being stalked and that he'd heard voices. He also said people were trying to ruin his modeling career by posting pictures of him. He saw a doctor in Germany. This was the first person that spoke to him after his arrest, who suspected that he'd been in a psychotic break related to the schizophrenia at the point in time where he killed Justin. Luca told this doctor that he had an abusive ex-partner from the States named Manny, who pimped him out, beat him, forced him to take part in bestiality, and had filmed all of it. He forced him to do this. According to testimony from Luca's first statement to this German doctor, he said that he and Justin met at a metro after he posted on Craigslist. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get everything right that Luca said he did. Looking for a partner who was into BDSM. They had wine, they talked together, and then they had consensual sex. He said they both took the drug temazepam, which they mixed into wine. He initially took it, Justin saw it, and then Luca said he gave him 2 or 3 pills. They mixed into the wine and drank it. Luca got up, saw a black car outside, and suddenly started thinking that Jun worked for the government and that he was out to get him. The voices in his head apparently told him that Justin was a government agent sent to kill him so that he would have to kill Justin before Justin killed him. The voices in his head told him that. In fact, he alluded to the fact that Manny was the voice in his head. This is also why Luca sent various body parts to government officials and schools, is because according to him, he was under the impression that Justin worked for the government was out to get him. The doctor giving the testimony said she believed Luca was likely experiencing a schizophrenic episode that night and didn't know what he was doing, didn't know the difference between right and wrong. She did, however, admit under cross-examination that Luca had a history of, quote, withholding critical medical information, end quote, and that it was very hard to tell when Luca was lying or telling the truth. Because he lied so much to himself, he believed his own lies. To another doctor, who also spoke in his defense, Luca again blamed the mysterious Manny, saying that this mysterious Manny forced him into not taking his meds, threatened him into not taking his meds, forced him to watch kinky sex videos, Manny was the one who forced him to make the animal abuse videos, under the threat of severe abuse to himself, and that Manny also forced him to eat his own feces and drink his own urine and forced him to commit sex acts with other people on video. Also, Manny used to, I think, force him to perform in BDSM, according to Luca. Now, I want to point out that there is no indication that this Manny ever lived anywhere except in Luca's own head. Police had never found a person matching Manny's description or with this name. Nobody seems to know about who he is. It seems like this person was a figment of Luca's imagination. However, if he was having audio hallucinations and visual hallucinations, it's not a stretch to think that he would associate the voices in his head with someone, and that he gave this someone the name Manny. I can't say for sure though. Most people this psychiatrist definitely believed that Manny was real to Luca, at least in Luca's mind. And Luca also did say that there were a lot of times that he could hear Manny and not see him. This doctor, of course, diagnosed him with paranoid schizophrenia and borderline personality disorder. So on December 23rd, 2014, the jury found Luca guilty on all counts and sentenced him to life. He also received a further 19 years. They didn't buy that he was in a psychotic break or in a break due to his schizophrenia. And the main reason behind that was because of all the lies that Luca had always told, because he wasn't taking his meds, even though he knew he was supposed to, and because of the fact that he was able to clean up so relatively well and appear calm while doing it. Not only that, but he was able to mail out the body parts and go on the run. A person in the middle of a psychotic break likely wouldn't have thought of all of that, but he was able to do that. And he was on the run for a few days. But he was found guilty. He also received a further 19 years tacked on to the sentence for all the harassment of Stephen Harper and the four other, for all the harassment charges. This sentence is served concurrently. We talked a little bit about that before. If your sentence is served concurrently, which is basically at the same time, it means that, yep, you're going to stay in there for 25 years. You're not going to be paroled until you serve at least 19 of them, of those 25 years. If your sentence is served consecutively, one right after the other, you have a higher chance at getting parole earlier. Let's just say it might seem like you're serving more years, but you have a higher chance of getting paroled sooner. Whereas if it's a consecutive or a concurrent sentence, then basically you serve all of those years and then you can be paroled. Initially, he did appeal, but of course, he soon after withdrew all of those appeals by 2015. So he's currently serving his sentence at the Port Cartier prison in Quebec. Many people believe that he was lying about the schizophrenia, or about, not so much about the diagnosis, because he'd been diagnosed with it so many years before, but a lot of people think that Luca was lying about being in a psychotic break at that point in time. He was just too cognizant at that point in time. I myself don't believe that he was suffering from a psychotic break. However, I do believe that some of his mental health illnesses probably led him in a way to it. But I do believe that when he committed the crime, he was fully aware of his faculties, let's just say. He didn't speak to his mother for a while, but then, of course, the two of them have since made up. And he tried online dating for a while, much like Mark Twitchell. But he actually, in 2017, married another inmate who he called the love of his life. So he is currently married. And his mother actually asked for him to be, he was in the news last year. His mother actually asked for him to be pardoned and released from prison due to COVID-19. Thankfully, the judicial system and Corrections Canada denied that. So there you go, guys. That is the story of Luca Magnotta. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Luca was in a psychotic break at the time that he committed this murder? Do you think that he was suffering from a mental illness? Do you think that he made any of that up? I really do believe that he is schizophrenic. There are various indicators, particularly because he sought help when he was younger, but I can't say for sure. And I believe at that point in time, he knew he was supposed to be taking his meds. He knew he was supposed to be going to the hospital. He knew he was supposed to be getting evaluated, and he just didn't. I don't believe there's a Manny. I believe that is a figment. I shouldn't say figment, because maybe it did seem real to him, but I think that was a creation of Luca's mind. And it was also an easy scapegoat to say that this person made him do all these things. That could have been the voice he was hearing, though. He could have been hearing a voice urging him to do these things, particularly because he was untreated. Now, he said that he was lying about NCR himself and that his lawyer made him do it. So there you go. What do you actually think? Do you think he's just paranoid schizophrenic? Which, of course, hallucinations, both audio and visual, suspicion of other people's intentions, particularly the government, unusual thoughts and beliefs, difficulty clearly thinking. To me, that sounds like Luca. He also does have signs of borderline, guys, because the instability of his moods, unstable personal relationships, unstable or inability to hold down a job too, changing jobs often, impulsivity, intense episodes of anger, depression, things of that nature. The fact that he is so easily able to take on other people's personas or other personas when it suits him, that does lead me to believe that it's possible he has BPD, particularly if his childhood was as traumatic as he says. They also said that he was suffering from histrionia, or a histrionic personality. So this seems to be a truism too. His esteem or his self-esteem depends on the viewpoints of others. He has an overwhelming need to be noticed, and he acts inappropriately or dramatically in order to get that attention. That could have been a reason why he filmed it. Well, this will get your attention. Of course, narcissism has been added into it, which is an inflated opinion of yourself, the need for admiration and the attention of others, the need for others to believe that you are this glorious, glamorous person who has everything they could ever want so that they'll be jealous of you. They have a need for that. They also believe that they deserve special treatment. And of course, some people have diagnosed him as being antisocial, which basically, for the fact that he showed no regard or remorse for anybody else's thoughts or feelings or any of their rights. He didn't feel anything about that. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below what you guys think of Luka Magnotta. It does look like we've made it through. And I do want to tell you guys something. This will actually be the last video that I put out for quite some time. I've had a few things come up in my regular life that need my attention at this point. And I don't think it would be fair to either you guys or to those things for me to not focus on them. If I only am able to focus on those things, I won't be able to put in as much work on the videos. And if I'm working on the videos, I won't be able to put in as much attention to the various things I need to pay attention to right now. And treat them in the way they need to be treated. It's nothing terrible or anything like that, guys. I'm just gonna have to take some time off. It'll probably be in the new year before I can post again. I hope that you guys all stay safe during that time. I hope that I will eventually be able to see you again for some of these videos. I hope that you guys live your best lives. I hope that you guys get interested in more cases and do some digging on your own. But most of all, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for being my audience. I'd like to thank those of you that have been there from the start for sticking with me, even though I ramble, I say the word a lot, things of that nature. I'm incredibly grateful to you. You guys have helped me through some very rough times in the past year. And hopefully after this little bit, I'll be back and I'll be ready to tell you some more terrifying stories. Check out more parts of Canada though, guys. We've got a lot of different stories. Until I am able to see you guys again, bye for now. And I hope you guys have the best holidays you possibly can.